What's up, everybody? Thanks for tuning in this week to Eastern Current. This is number 10 for us. We never thought we'd make it this far. We just kind of wanted to do 3 episodes and then get the heck out. But
here we are, man.
Here we are. So thanks again for tuning in. We're excited about this week's show, something I'm very passionate about, and that is fly fishing. I wasn't fly fishing right off the bat when I got into fishing, but it's definitely become a large passion of mine, and Billy's as well. Billy loves fly fishing.
Oh, yeah.
And
I love that sweetwater fly fishing.
Oh,
so,
yeah.
So to learn about saltwater and challenge these saltwater boys, it'll be fun tonight.
I like it. Literally, as soon as the show comes on, I start saying I like it.
Yeah, I haven't heard you say that all night, and then I like it. I like it. This is nice. I like it.
I like it.
What's up, Sydney? Joining us, Steven joining us live. If you're watching us, comment below. Let us know you guys are watching. Super stoked to have you on the show. Looking forward to all your questions that we're going to try to answer as we move through here. So anyway, yeah, man. What's going on over there, Judson?
Oh, nothing much. Today I was on the water, had a little fly trip this afternoon, a little spin trip this morning. It's been fun. A tough day today, but it's been pretty good recently. So we are, like I was saying, we're excited to do this show. I think that it's going to be a good one. We got a great guest and someone who's got a lot of fishing knowledge under their belt and a lot of fly fishing experience, as well as almost everything under his belt, and got some cool questions to ask him. But yeah. Yeah,
man. Super excited. We got a lot of people jumping on, joining us. Steven, I believe it's called Steven, says best podcast video on the internet right now. That's big, man. I appreciate that.
Steven. Can we get that in writing?
Distance. Yeah, man. Can you go, if it's the best podcast, make sure you go and jump on our podcast on iTunes and rate that. Super helps us out. Ross says, glad I found you guys last week. For Richard, looking forward to watching you guys. Hey, man, appreciate it. Thanks for joining us, Ross. Like Judson said, super awesome show. Just want to do some upfront stuff here really quick. Let us know where you're watching from. Just comment on here. We're going to be giving away, where is that? We're going to be giving away from your mom this awesome trout.
My mom's trout.
Your mom's trout. A little speckled trout action right there. Look at that. Even got a little fly in its mouth and everything. This is perfect for this show. So in order to get that, you guys have to comment or interact with the show somehow. Actually, comment, because I always pick comments. Like I say like and share, but I never pick anybody that shares. So
no BS comments either. We want good questions, or where are you watching from, or your favorite color.
Yeah, hey, Luke Tippett joined us just now. He says, y'all stepped up that mic game. Yeah, baby.
Yes.
Yeah, which we had to figure that out.
Mike.
If we're going to have a real podcast, we got to have all this fancy stuff and...
These $200 pop filters Billy had to have.
Honey, they were not $200. My wife is watching this. She's going to murder me.
They were like $6, I think.
Yeah, they were like 12 each or something on Amazon, but I don't have an affiliate link, so don't go look. Wait until I get that up. All right, who else is watching here? We got Nick says, what's up, fellas? Forrest Gray is joining us again. Cameron from Wrightsville Beach. Already mentioned Luke there.
Cameron.
Nicholas Stevens joining us from Southport. Nicholas from Oak Island. Raleigh. Maple Hill, North Carolina. Awesome. Ben Williamson from Wilmington. Appreciate you guys joining us. Joseph Larcade. Larcade, does that sound familiar to you? He says, my buddy Judson.
Oh, Joseph Licardi, yeah.
Joseph Licardi,
I went to high school with him.
Awesome, man. We got somebody from Rockingham watching. Oh, we got Sydney here from K38 in Wilmington.
That's my nephew's girlfriend. What's up, Sydney?
That's what I'm talking about, man. I love K38, dude. If you guys are watching and you've never been to K38 and you're in Wilmington, first of all, shame on you. Second of all, run there as fast as you can. Just for chips and dip in queso will be amazing.
Yeah, dip a chip for me, Sydney.
Dip a chip for us. That'll be amazing. So anyway, that's everybody joining us online. We appreciate that. So Judson, let's go ahead and shout out some of our sponsors. We'll get into Catch of the Week, and then we'll get into fly fishing.
Yeah, for sure. So first and foremost, definitely want to thank iStrike. We've got some great partners in them, and I've been fishing their stuff for a long time, and they've been just super supportive of the show. So just a big reminder. If you go buy in bulk on their website, you'll save 40% just off the top.
Man,
you don't have to have a code, nothing. Up to 40%. And that's just a great way. And I like to buy jig heads in bulk just because I lose so many jig heads. So it's a nice way to do it. And we want to thank AFCO and Marshwear, who are also just huge supporters of the show. Great friends of ours.
I got my shirt on. I got to get some more gear, dude. I wear this shirt like every week.
Dude, I can smell it from over here. Have you washed it since you got it?
No way.
Oh man, that is terrible.
No way, man. Not doing that.
But yeah, AFCO and Marshwear, just great companies, and we love their stuff. Definitely want to thank Eastern Angling, just a huge company that I'm just kidding. Eastern angling is my little guide business. So
dude, Judson doesn't like to promote himself. If you want to get on the water, get some fish, have some fun, especially fly fishing. It's one of your expertise there. Like, book a trip with him, man. It's pretty simple. You see him on the show all the time. You can trust him at this point. I think after 10 episodes, people can trust that you can.
At least you'll know what I look like when you walk up to the boat ramp.
Yeah, exactly. You're not gonna be looking around staring. So take him take him fishing. Yeah, let him take you fishing.
Take me fishing sometime.
Yeah. That'd be awesome. I need somebody to take me fishing. If you're watching this, you want to take me fishing.
But on the other end, I want to point out what Billy does. Thorpe Creative. He does screen printing and custom apparel, which is huge. He's helped me out.
Huge.
Well, it's all what you do is really cool, man.
I've
been always wanting to print shirts and hats, and it's just so expensive, and you got to buy all this bulk stuff. And with Billy, I can set it up where, hey, if I want to get one shirt, I can get one shirt. If I want to get 10,000 shirts, I can get 10,000 shirts. And
if he orders 10,000 shirts, there will be another co-host on this show. I will not be here anymore.
If I order 10,000 shirts, Billy's taking half the year off. So.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
But seriously, it sounds like we're just plugging away. But if you need any type of
we want we want you guys to do business with us outside of Eastern Angling. We work hard
Eastern
to bring
Current.
Eastern Current.
Yep.
No, we want business with Eastern Angling. But anyways, that's how we support the show. So yeah, man,
sure,
if you
for
can
sure.
support us, please do. I have no problem in
Yeah,
doing that.
definitely.
I love you, Judson. I love your humility.
I
when
get
it
so
comes
nervous.
To promoting. I'm like, dude, I'm the best printer ever. You're like, I guess I can fish okay. You should maybe book me. No, book him. He's good, man.
I get nervous.
Anyway. And then if you get out there and he can't drive, Cito will come pick you up.
Exactly. I almost needed Cito to pick me up today. I had a double, and my one bar of gas was blinking on the way back to the ramp from Surf City all the way to Wrightsville Beach.
Oh my gosh!
So my tank holds 18 gallons, and I got back. I filled it up before I came back to my house, and I filled it up with like 17.6 gallons. So I was very close to running out of gas.
Dude, so how far? I mean, like, do you get like mileage? I'm assuming.
I was burning 5.6. I was getting 5.6 miles per gallon running back. So,
Shoo, man, that's like gassing it, huh?
I was going about 74.
Dude, Forrest Gray says, speaking of which, are the shirts available in different colors? In my end, it only seemed like a single color. If you're talking about the Eastern Current shirts, just send us an email or drop us a line. Tell us what color you want. I can put those on any color. We print them one off and ship them right to you. So no big deal there. So just let us know. We threw that website up. I don't know, man, like episode 2 or something, just to have something up there. And,
yeah.
So anyway, cool. Well, man, awesome. Those are all our sponsors. Go support those guys if you can. Let's go ahead and jump into Catch of the Week. What's Catch of the Week going to win, by the way?
Catch of the Week is going to win. We already know who it is. It's a girl. So we've got this beautiful AFCO sun hoodie.
Ooh, perfect. Look at that thing with the hood on it.
I put it on a couple times. I don't look that great in it. So.
Yeah, I apologize for the smell for that thing. So that is going to Marty. Here we go.
Nice.
Yeah, you guys.
Martini 517 on Instagram. Go follow her.
Way to go! Look at that. We're talking about lady anglers. We need more lady anglers watching the show. I looked at our podcast and our Facebook statistics, and we got a lot of 25 to 35-year-old men on here. So if your ladies fish, tell them to jump on here, and we're gonna get a lady angler on here who smokes it, and just like have her teach a little bit of. Well, what are you guys laughing at? Anyway. I can't have a serious conversation. You mentioned ladies around fishermen, and they all just like start going,
Ladies?
We're going to have some ladies on the show? All right, anyway, so we're about 9 minutes in, so we're going to bypass all that stuff. We're going to go and bring our guest on. He is actually in studio with us right now. The one and only John.
I can't stop laughing.
This is definitely a bad joke.
Definitely.
Nice.
All right, man. Let's see. Let's bring on
John Huff, our good friend.
Oh, this is perfect, man. The camera stopped working for John Huff.
Oh, gosh.
Nobody wants to look at me anyway.
Oh, my goodness.
We do.
No.
Oh, my goodness. Let me see. I'm going to pull this camera out here real quick.
Cool.
So anyway, John, just introduce John here, and I'm going to mess with the camera and see if I can't get this thing back up and going.
So John Huff is a good friend of mine. We've met just through, he's been guiding here a long time and been involved in the fishing industry in Wilmington and a lot of places for a long time. And I've gotten just to know him through being on the water around here and getting to hang out. And I think maybe the first time we met was at one of the striper tournaments. Like
could be.
Handful of years. I don't even remember when the first time we met, but great dudes, real fishy, and does a lot from offshore fishing. You've done a ton of offshore fishing and to redfish and shallow water. So he's got a lot of knowledge. He's fly fished and redfish, and he's fly
There
fish
he
for
is.
marlin.
Hey.
There he is.
Welcome to the
Hey.
show, John.
Thanks.
Thanks for being on
Thanks.
here.
Nice
I
to
swear
be
that
here.
iPhone camera looks better than any of the other
I
cameras.
kind of
Yeah, dude, it does. So like my camera here, my if my
Maybe
wife
just
is watching.
turn it back off. I liked it.
Nah, man, I love it. Look, you're front and
I like
center,
to
right there
listen
in the
to
middle.
myself. Thanks for having me on, guys. I
Yeah,
appreciate
for
it.
sure, for sure.
Judson, Billy, thank you.
Yeah,
Thank
man,
you. Yeah.
absolutely. Wouldn't have it any other way. Heard a lot about you. Heard you're a pretty good fly fisherman.
Yeah, you can try. I've tried. I've been fly fishing a long time. Like Judson said, I've been doing it a long time, which, yeah, I'm old.
So when did you get
old.
into to fishing and fly? Well, let's talk about fly fishing. Let's keep on subject. When did you start fly fishing?
Fished all my life, basically, but fly fishing, I got an 8-weight from my dad when I was 11 years old.
Nice.
And I
Okay.
turned 50 whenever the 8th, Thursday,
Dude,
Wednesday.
yeah. Wow.
Oh, dang.
Wow.
What's
Happy
today?
birthday.
Happy
Yeah,
birthday.
so kind of a geezer, but that's, do the math.
Well, you
That's-
look like you're 40, 35, 40.
Well, great.
So-
I guess that's good. I don't know.
I'm 29. I look like I'm 40. So
Yeah,
Well,
dude.
just stay there.
exactly.
I'm 32. I
hoping
look
to hover there.
15.
Must be all my clean living. I don't know. I don't know what does, but
Actually, I think I'm 28. Yeah, 28. So
You've had too much sun today.
way too much.
Just melting your brain.
every
Sunny
day.
D.
It's been sunny.
So John, you primarily focus on inshore guide trips, specialize in shallow water flats, sight fishing for red drum, puppy drum, speckled trout, and a host of other stuff on fly fishing, light tackle, things like that. And then also, man, I thought it was pretty cool. I read your biography here, and you've fished over 20 years in really like Florida, Bahamas, Bermuda, Panama, Costa Rica, like really everywhere, dialing on like bonefish and black marlin.
Been lucky enough to travel, have some opportunities. I mean, I left college to become a land surveyor, and that was going to be career path. And by whim, actually, started working part time at a tackle shop in Fort Lauderdale, and then full time. And I'll give you the short version or the long version, however you want to look at it. But within 4 or 5 years of being involved in the tackle shop, I got some amazing opportunities to travel, tournament fish. I used to giggle myself to sleep. I mean, really, in my 20s. Ended up spending the better part of 5 years in Costa Rica, and just couldn't believe it. Fishing 20, 25 days a month, and then, back in the early 90s, and it was just amazing. So
That's awesome.
a lot of great opportunities, and yeah, I don't know, just very grateful to have done it, and still enjoy going fishing, would do it regardless, and like taking different people out, and trying to do it,
Yeah.
but have done gotten to do a lot of neat stuff, seen a lot of neat stuff.
And so you've been doing that here in Wilmington for like over 15 years.
I've
now,
had
you
the
say?
boat now full-time inshore guide since 03.
Oh yeah,
That's awesome.
Yeah. So what?
Yeah,
16
the boat
years.
I've
So
had
yeah.
now. I did a lot of blue water, and when I started the business, split probably 50-50, either charter boats or private boats, a lot of blue water tournaments, things like that. So
Awesome.
yeah, a lot of fun.
If you had to pick just one fish to chase, actually, I already know the answer. Y'all don't know the answer to this question, but if you had to pick one fish to chase for the rest of your life, what would it be?
I mean, everything notwithstanding, it's a toss-up. There's two of them.
There's two of them.
There's
Okay.
two of them that would be about equal to me in difficulty and in challenge and in excitement level, which would be a blue marlin and a tarpon.
Blue marlin and tarpon. That's awesome.
Both on fly.
Sure.
Have you
Sure,
had a blue
never-
marlin fly bite?
I've hooked blue marlin on
You've
the
hooked
fly.
blue marlin on the fly?
Yeah, a couple of them.
That's
you know.
awesome.
That's insane.
I kind of thought about that. What would be one of the most exciting? I mean, of course, tarpon, always, but blue marlin on fly. Haven't landed.
A lot
one,
less
haven't gotten
people
a
have done
leader.
the blue marlin on fly than the tarpon.
A lot, yeah.
Yeah.
And it's you're still, if you're following, because I'll spin fish, I'll fly fish, but I love to fly fish, and when the time's right, when it's a thing to do, sight fishing especially. I mean, fly fishing's the deal. But you got to follow the rules,
Right.
Otherwise, why?
Yeah.
Why do it? And you can only have a 12-inch leader.
Yeah.
So, with most blue marlin any size and a 12-inch leader, you're just severely limited
Yeah.
in your ability.
And you're talking
to
about the
land
12-inch, the bite section.
tippet,
Yeah.
and you're not going to go much over 20-pound class tippet.
Right.
So
right.
when you only have a 12-inch bite tippet and a 2 to 3 foot bill on a medium to small fish,
You're
Yeah.
gonna slice it up pretty good.
yeah, it's a tough game. I mean, it's a
Dude, what size rod are you fishing with that?
it's your 20-pound tippet. So I mean, I've seen some of my best angling with an 11 weight, which
Yeah. Wow.
I would throw at certain redfish.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
It's more about line capacity, drag, angling ability. But a blue marlin, there's a few people who have done it. There's some guys that have done it multiple times. But you're going to dedicate what it takes.
Yeah. Well,
Spend a lot of money too.
Yeah, dedicate what it takes.
Dedicate
time
what it
and
takes.
money, time and money in both. Yeah, sure.
Well, dude, let's talk about that for a little bit. And I'm
Yeah.
just gonna this first part of the segment here. I'm gonna probably just ask some questions and set up, because I think there's a lot of people. Judson and I are talking about this. There's probably a lot of people that are watching this show, and they are, they've fished saltwater their whole lives. And I even know, one of my neighbors was like, "Oh yeah, you guys doing a saltwater show? That's cool." He's like, "I've been fishing here my whole life. I've never touched a fly rod, like a
Right.
saltwater fly rod." I'm like, "Really?" And he's like, "Yeah, I just don't know anything about it." So let's real quick, let's talk about the differences. And I think we all fly fish here, so we can all kind of chime in at will or whatever. But a little bit of a difference, or quite a bit of difference with fly rod versus spin rod. And I think for me, my first thing that I always think about is like, with a spin rod, you're typically throwing a lure. With the fly rod, you're throwing a line.
Right.
And then, with bait, with the fly on it, you're not really trying to chuck that fly. But so, I mean, what are the main, kind of differences if you're trying to explain this? Somebody calls you, they want to book a charter, they want to fly fish, they never fly fish before. How do you explain like, hey man, this isn't going to come out here because it's difficult. It's like golfing versus
you
baseball.
brought it up. It's just, I talk about it all the time and jump in, Judson. But one of my things on the boat is like, well, is fly fishing hard? Well, no, it's not hard. But if you don't commit the time to learn how to do it, to learn how to cast, to rig a bit, to use your equipment and what you're trying to do, it takes a certain level of time commitment and practice. But if you practice about as much as I, practice golf, you're going to golf like I do, which is just pitiful. And so it's not hard, but you do have to go through the steps. Nobody's born an amazing fly fisherman except for maybe Lefty was, but I don't know. I mean,
Lefty Cray, by the way, anybody
Lefty
listening,
Cray.
make sure you YouTube that guy. Like just a
He was a legend.
great.
Legendary, and I use he's got analogies on casting that he wrote that I use all the time, and I watch people will change in an hour just from using some of the things he talked about.
Yeah, that's cool.
With casting and just improving it. But he was a hand-eye phenom. Otherwise, you've got to practice. You've got to commit the time and.
Yeah. So, and not to cut you off here, but I want to understand and just let our viewers or the people listening or watching the the replay or listening to our podcast, so we just said, I just asked you a few minutes ago, hey, what weight rod did you use? Let's dive into that a little bit. Let's talk about the weight rods, what they're set up for, the weight lines, because it's really a matching game. I think when you get a spin reel, a rod, I mean, it's like, okay, braid, how much braid? But when you're talking about fly fishing, it's like you got to couple some stuff together to understand it, like how the rod and the line go together. So you guys want to explain a little bit about that?
Yeah, I think one of the things when I was first looking at buying fly rods that confused me was the lettering and numbering on like line packaging.
Yeah.
So looking at a line and being like, what the heck does that mean?
Yeah.
And so there's really just two differences. There's sinking lines and there's floating lines. I'd say more times than not, people are using floating fly lines.
Sure.
And that would be like, you'll see like a
I'd say.
weight forward. So it'd be WF, say it's an 8-weight rod or 8-weight line. So it's WF 8 weight forward. So wait,
WF
I'm already messing it up.
Yeah.
That's
floating,
for floating. And then it specifies the floating. And so that's kind of your little code you look for. And then the sinking is instead of F, it's an S, right?
Yeah, they'll have sinking, and then the sinking can be like measured in grains. And it's more confusing than it needs to be.
It is.
But you can simplify it with a little reading the research, or heck, give Judd or I a call, even if you're like, I'm never booking with those guys. Call us. We'll at least tell you.
Yeah, for
hey,
sure.
set this stuff up, and
So
we can help.
Is the forward weight? So because I come from the mountains, so it's a little bit different of a scenario there. So you said it was weight forward, right? WF.
Yeah, so that means the weight of the line is at the front section. So isn't that correct?
Yeah.
So it's on the section so it's tapered heavier to what you're casting.
That
Exactly.
goes into a good difference between, say, freshwater and saltwater and getting into fly fishing. I mean, you can have level lines that is the same diameter from end to end.
Right.
Yeah.
I don't see them used anymore. I mean, even if I'm actually going to an awesome Spring Creek trout place in the Western NC next week for a couple of days.
Oh yeah, that's cool.
With a good buddy, and we'll be throwing a 3-weight, but I'll be throwing a weight forward floating
Yeah.
free weight.
Yeah.
I mean, the whole time.
The whole-
and
yeah.
the weight forward is basically your fly line's broken down into a forward head that's usually somewhere around 2 to 3 times the diameter of the rest of your line
Gotcha.
or your running line. And that's the part of the line that's designed to give yourself some weight to throw with the rod for momentum to load the rod, which is just fancy word for bending the rod.
Yeah.
Because the equipment's designed to do a lot for you.
Yeah.
I watch a lot of people fight the equipment more so than let it work for them. And that just comes from practice and research and a few good lessons on the ground floor. I always say is great. You know, if you're like, hey, I want to try fly fishing and I want to go out, you know, I want to book Judd or even myself or any of the other couple of guides around here that could take them and know what's going on in the fly world, is at least a phone call or maybe a lesson or two in a park, you know, meet somewhere and so just start from
Because I think it makes your trip way more enjoyable if you got
Way
there,
more productive too.
You know, it's like going on a hunting trip and never shooting a gun. You're like,
no, you have to
this is
practice.
stupid.
You have to
Where's
practice.
the safety at?
and you probably will shoot yourself with a fly rod right in the face. Like I've done that, you know, a couple times. So okay, so we're talking about weight of line. So weight of line, and it's really important to pair that up. I mean, it's pretty easy. Like you're talking about when you look at the rod, it's just like okay, here's an 8 foot, 9 foot, 10 foot, whatever, and you know, 8 weight. So you want to match those and pair those up. Which I fish a little bit different because I fish an 8 weight rod with a 9 weight weighted, you know, the weighted to the front line on it or
You know,
whatever.
it's not an industry. There's no industry standard.
Yeah.
There's no model to model within a brand standard.
Oh,
So
gotcha. I didn't know
it's-
that.
You know, every year, like some of the top manufacturers will come out with a new rod. This is their new best of the best, awesome. Well, after some of the Keys guides have had it for a couple of months and everybody starts using it, they're like, yeah, the 8 and the 11 weight are awesome in that line. But none of them are going to buy anything other than the 8 and the 11 weight out of that whole line of rods. You know, if it's saltwater specific, it's going to be 6 through 12. You're like, no, you need this model in the. So it becomes with a good shop and you know, doing your own research to know. And then different casters are different. I mean, I've seen casters throw rods, you know, that they pick up one rod and they do really good with it, and then the next rod, forget it. You know?
Yeah.
For sure.
And what do you think? So overall, and I know this is a difficult question because you know, like we just talked about tarpon, we talked about marlin, we're talking about redfish and cobia and all, you know, all kinds of fish here that you can fly fish for. But what do you recommend an overall weight that, you know, like, hey, I'm either starting or maybe I got, you know, somebody bought me a fly rod a long time ago
For saltwater. to
Yeah,
get
yeah,
into
for saltwater.
I mean, it's
Absolutely.
always been an 8.
Okay, gotcha.
You know, it depends on what you're going to do. You can go somewhere in a 7 weight if you've got, you know, maybe you're going to have some use for that or do some speckled trout fishing and things like that. Where a 7, somewhere between a 7 and a 9, depending on.
Okay, gotcha.
You know, with an 8 weight, being able to do everything pretty well and something you could take with you bone fishing. You know, there's a lot of good entry level rods where you don't have to spend a mint.
Gotcha.
For sure.
And the ultra fast rods that kind of were the rage, and they're actually come out. I know some of the manufacturers have come out with all glass rods where, you know, they're super slow actions, very slow bend, very soft rod. I find a moderate rod, everybody can fish it. It's a little more forgiving. And if you've got somebody that's on a mid-level learning to cast and learning to get into saltwater casting, you give them an ultra fast rod.
It's tough.
Yeah.
It's a confidence crusher, and
It's hard to bend without a lot of line. You've already got to be casting a good distance.
You've got to know how to load it. You've got to really be able to.
And okay, that leads into perfectly the next question here. So you got your line, you got your, you know, we could probably talk a little bit about backing and all that kind of stuff. I mean, I've fished for a while. I've never gotten to backing. Of course, I haven't fished for tarpon. I'm sure if I was fishing for tarpon or something of that sort, I'd get into backing. I'm not sure. I don't know if they
Backing for tarp. I mean, it's important to have backing for sure. You
and
got to have it.
explain what that is.
The backing is so your fly line's only what is it? What's
90 feet.
90
to
feet
100, yeah,
to
something
100
like that.
feet is your standard fly line length, and so your backing is just all your line behind that, so that when you get to 90 feet, especially on a tarpon, which you're going to get there pretty freaking quick, you've got some confidence back there. So backing is with tarpon, it's just about having a lot of it, and those big fish, it's about having a lot of it.
Yeah.
What do you have on some of your bigger tarpon reels as far as
I mean,
backing goes?
I like 300.
You like 300 pound?
And I'm getting into
I think it's
the
what I
braid or
have
the
on my 8-way. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, you know, if you're gonna like a bonefish, it was always 200 yards minimum.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I've seen it where that's not enough.
And I think if you buy it, it'll like kind of give you that little rating on the
sure.
on the reel.
And
so
you
if
get
go and-
some of the braids now. I've used a lot of the braids.
Yeah, you can find some
get
cheaper
back.
braids on Amazon that,
Yeah.
that you can get a large spool of instead of paying a lot of money for like backing. You can it's just braided line.
yeah,
And
yeah,
so
yeah, that's cool.
With a fish that's going to pull more drag, you want a large arbor reel. So that
Yeah.
means a reel with a bigger spool on it, so you can pack a lot more line on there.
Yeah, the
Okay,
large arbor is
gotcha.
nice. Gives you a better retrieve ratio, less memory on your fly line.
Yeah.
You know, they went. It was about 10 or 20 years ago when they went from wide, smaller diameter, bigger reels to larger diameter, narrow.
Yeah,
Yeah.
And you know, like a billfish, I'll have 600 yards of 50-pound braid. You know, if you were chasing blue marlin, I'd have 600 yards of 50-pound braid. And I mean,
in a fast boat.
Because your line's pointing to the left and the fish is jumping over here to the right.
I mean, you're fighting the belly for the first 20, 30
How
minutes.
fast does this thing go in reverse?
Yeah.
Oh, cool, man. So and I'm just kind of putting the pieces together for people who've never
Yeah.
fly fished,
think
or
this is
maybe they're
perfect.
curious, man. You know, so for us, it's kind of like
Fly
oh,
curious.
Man, yeah, they're fly curious. So we got our rod, we got our reel. We'll talk about maybe reels in a little bit. Reel size. So basically, reel size 8-weight to an 8-weight rod. I mean, pretty good start out.
And a lot of those reels will cover a few different weights of rods. So it'll
Yeah,
be like a
yeah.
7, 8, 9.
Yeah, that's a good because I think that's what mine is, like 7, 8, 9
Yeah.
or whatever. A couple I have. So let's talk about the leader breakdown because that's for saltwater it's different. I feel like it's way different than freshwater. So what?
I don't think it's as critical.
It's not as critical. There's a lot of times where I'll tie on a straight piece of
20
leader.
pound, 50
Yeah,
Oh,
20,
gotcha.
15 pound. But if I'm getting fancy, if I've got a client on the boat that I'm like really trying to impress, maybe I'll tie like 30, 25, 20 or
Okay,
Step
gotcha.
30,
around.
20, 15 and taper it a little bit. But it really doesn't matter. And I'll fish like a 7, 8 foot leader for redfish here. It seems to be pretty standard.
That's about what I like.
Yeah.
I start the season with a handful of store-bought tapered leaders. I like the taper, and then when they get down around 5 feet, or I want to cut a piece off of them, I'll stick a piece of 15 or 20 pound
Yeah.
fluorocarbon on
Yeah.
there with a couple different whatever
Yeah, gotcha.
and add it back. And the 9, 10 foot leaders I don't think are necessary for our darker water reds. I haven't seen them be too leader shy. I mean, if they're gonna eat, they're gonna eat. You can fish 30 pound if you want
Yeah.
to. But
I'll catch them bait fishing sometimes with I'll be fishing a dock and have 50 pound, 60 pound leader
Yeah.
on there.
Yeah.
And
That's
they,
crazy.
They don't,
And they don't care.
care.
no, they're not too leader shy. I haven't seen that.
Maybe
big-
on a little
big-
tiny fly if you had 60 pound, but
Yeah, and it seems like for control of your fly. So say like freshwater fishing, I'm up
Yeah.
in the mountains. So and I don't know, I don't know how true or whatever. It's worked for me though. Like if I get a 7-foot rod or 7.6, I'm gonna try to get a 7 or 8 foot leader, tapered leader, and put that on and fish with that, and then add tippet as I need or whatever. Or maybe even start out with another 18 to 24 inch piece of tippet on top of that. But I have researched saltwater's like, no, you need to like 8 feet and then like 24 inches of like tippet. That way you can
For
just
sure.
keep cutting that tippet off, and then before you get
Retie in.
into your leader.
Yeah.
And
I think-
and a lot of guys are like, oh yeah, do 40, do like, I think it was like something I got on here like 2 feet of 40 or 4 feet of 40, and then like 2 feet of 30 and 2 feet of 20, and then put your tippet on there.
yeah.
If you're building your own tippets,
If you're
I
building
guess.
your own
or
leader
your own
section.
leaders, I mean.
And
Yeah.
I think the tapered leader definitely helps with fly casting because that line's rolling out and it just transitions through that.
Yeah, because it's got to. I mean, the whole point of the leader is to flip that fly,
that
right?
fly over, and it
carry on with your loop. Yeah,
Exactly.
To carry it out. I mean, and it does that sometimes.
It does. Yeah, sometimes it's like, oh man, my
Sometimes
leader's
it's
messed
like-
up. It really
Yeah.
is just
And it
cast.
seems like a shorter leader, and especially in saltwater, because you got all these elements. You got the wind, you got all the, and then you're throwing some pretty good sized stuff. I mean, this isn't like super big, but this is like a clouser. I don't know, what is that, like a 2 inch, 3 inch, 4? What I don't
probably
know
a
what that
2.5,
is.
3 inch
2.5.
fly.
So that's not that big. I mean, I throw pretty big clousers, and it's like, dude, to really get those, to get that to.
To roll, to get your
yeah.
leader to roll over.
But if you're trying to do that, like I tried when I first moved here, I was trying to do that with like a 7-8 foot,
Yeah.
leader, and I'm like, dude, this sucks. Like throwing in the wind.
you
and
can
all
a
that.
lot of species you can shorten your leader up.
Yeah.
Definitely.
That's
Especially
good to
some of
know.
the ocean species, it seems like.
Yeah, I
That's
mean,
good for
and
new
then
people to know, because it's like, dude, you can control that way more.
Yeah, I
think.
mean, like Justin said, there's a lot of times I'll go to a straight 4 foot like have a somebody who's wanting to check it out and do a little saltwater fly fishing. We're like, let's go chase the blues. We got good 2-3 pound blues around. We'll get in the action just to get to where you're fighting fish and casting. I mean,
so I have a question about blues. Those things are notorious for biting crap off. Like, is there something
that's what
you
I was
put
getting
on the
at.
end?
Straight, maybe 3-4 feet of 20-pound fluorocarbon, and then I like the thin knottable wire, like the little coated flexible,
like the surf strand.
Yeah,
Dude,
I think
love
surf
that.
strand makes a couple, but there's one you can just. You can double surgeons it, or unit to unit, or Albright it right to the end, and then you can do almost any knot you want on your fly. And
that's sweet.
That's cool.
So
That's
I mean,
super cool.
as simple a leader setup as you can get. I mean, a billfish leader is ridiculous.
Yeah.
There's some guys that have caught blue marlin we were talking about earlier, and there's fly line straight 100-pound to the fly. I mean, why? I don't.
Right.
It's like, to me, that was like, no, you have no weak link. There's no weak link. That's, you just got them on rope. So
Yeah, that's crazy, man. So we'll talk about real sizes real quick. And I mean, not even real sizes, but I guess, there's, because once again, I come from saltwater world. So some guys don't even have any drag on a reel. I mean, you're just, I don't know what it's called, but you just like kind of control that drag.
Palming.
Yeah. Just like you
Yeah,
palm it with your hand. But here, like, what am I looking for as far as like, I mean, I don't know if there's like a drag system or like a drag strength I'm looking for here. Like, what would that look like?
I don't think I've ever pulled a fly drag with a scale.
I have
trolling stuff, but I don't. Maybe just to check it, but usually by hand.
So you guys, okay.
By hand, yeah.
I don't know about you, Joe, but I fish a lighter drag because most modern fly reels have what they call a palming rim, where you can actually touch it with your palm.
Oh, gotcha.
And if some of the bigger fish like tarpon or something have your fly line in the water, you don't want a ton of extra drag. You want them to just drag the fly line around.
For sure.
Yeah.
And you can always add a little bit extra, and you can always adjust during the fight. But I usually start with just a little bit more that it won't overspin or backlash. What it could do on a good bite or something like that.
Because the drag's tension, like on a spinning rod, is what sets that hook.
Gotcha.
But when you're setting a hook on a fly rod in saltwater, you're strip setting. Which means
explain that.
This is a
big difference.
big
Big
tension here.
difference.
Don't
Big
trout
difference.
Don't trout set.
So let's talk about this, because this is one thing, like I said, I'm coming from freshwater world, and dude, I'm used to what they call high sticking, where you're just pulling
Rod tip up high.
Rod tip up high and hold it, and it's beautiful. I mean, it's like one of the best retrieves of reeling in a fish, and your hand reeling it. But I think it's a huge mistake here.
You'll hook nothing in saltwater.
Yeah.
You might prick them for a second, but
Yeah.
it's more simple than people make it. It's really most saltwater fish's mouths are very hard. Your fly rod is super flimsy. You lift that rod tip up to set the hook. Maybe you'll get lucky and you'll catch him in a soft spot in his mouth. But typically you'll hang him for a second and it'll fly. A lot of times it'll just fly straight out of their mouth.
That's even if you're pulling
down with the fly line too.
No, don't move the rod.
Yeah.
Strip set.
Okay.
What were you saying?
I've had people that can't get away from lifting the rod, and I'm sure you have.
Oh yeah.
And
it's ingrained in your head too.
I understand it because I got a little story right out, but I'll have them put the rod tip in the water.
Okay.
And say, okay, while you're fishing this fly, especially if we're in the action, we've got fish working, we're seeing fish, rod tip in the water, and don't take it out of the water.
Yeah, 2 inches under the surface.
And that will enable them, because they're don't move it, and they'll be able to strip with their left hand, a nice long strip, let the fly find purchase. One of two things is you're going to hook them, and if he misses it, now it's not behind you by lifting the rod. It's still right there in the game, one of his buddies, things like that.
Yeah.
But every saltwater fish is strip set, and I think I'd never really looked at it way. You just hit a nail on the head with, once you come up with a fly rod, you have no leverage. There's nothing really there.
Right.
I mean, if you're using a fly rod for a fish fighting tool, you need to learn to collapse the top half and pull with the 2 to 3 feet just above your hand.
Yeah.
Okay.
Exactly.
Yeah. Wow.
Or you're not getting any leverage. So, I've watched some people fight some big fish and I wouldn't say I'm that good at fighting big fish on a fly. It takes me, usually get my butt kicked. But I've watched some people just
There's some beasts out
absolutely
there.
wear out fish.
Yeah. Wow.
And just because they're just so efficient with the fly rod, with knowing where they're breaking it, their breaking point is, with knowing the max pressure they can put on when to put what to, just unbelievable stuff.
Wow.
It's fun to watch. But.
So the rip set, you guys are
The strip set.
or strip set. Now, I've always said rip set. I don't know why. So
I
strip
like
set.
that. I'm going to call it rip set from now on.
Just rip it. That's what I think. So
That's
you're
just
leaving
faster.
the tip
Strip
in the
set,
water
it's a
by
rip
2
set.
inches.
Yeah, and so what he was saying
to train
too.
you not to lift your rod.
Yeah,
to
exactly.
train you not to lift your rod.
Exactly. Yeah.
But the other thing that I tell every client every single day is I want your rod tip on the surface or in the water just a bit. Because when you have your rod tip up, you've got belly in the line. So you've got slack between your hand and that fly.
Yeah.
So when that fish eats, that's more tension, that's more length you've got to strip to get pressure on that fish's face.
Gotcha.
So when your rod tip's in the water, you've got direct connection from your hand, your stripping hand, to the fly. So you can bury that hook much quicker and get pressure on it.
Dude, that's good, man. I'm learning a ton.
Well, the first time I went to this same trout camp that I'm lucky enough to go to next week, I fished dry fly the first morning.
Oh, yeah.
And went 0 for 6. Strip setting my bites.
Strip setting the
And
dry
that's
fly.
just a fact. I mean, I watched him eat it and strips and nope, until I trout set. And it took me 6 or 7 shots before I could not strip set. You know?
That's
think my
awesome. Because
first-
you always hear it going the other way, but it's nice to hear it.
It goes
works
the other
way.
way. Yeah, it's reciprocal.
That's
This is how
crazy.
you do it in this situation. This is how you do it in this situation.
Yeah. Well, dude, I always set stuff like I'm bass fishing. So I sent, I do fish some ponds here around town just for fun. And dude, I sent one of those sunfish into the next zip code. I don't know where he went, but I was like, whatever, dude. But I'm used to that. I'm used to that trout set, you know, and that's like, because I miss fish. I mean, obviously by jerking the hook like crazy out of their mouth. But then my father-in-law was like, hey, chill out, just lift up the rod, just like chillfully lift up the rod. And I'm like, How? So now I'm learning like a whole new, you know, saltwater. Like, all right, now I'm put the tip in the water.
There's also
and
the
rip
strout
and
set.
stripping.
The
The
strout.
The
I
strout
don't know,
set,
you're
which
gonna have to
sometimes works.
What is
But
that?
I tell people,
Sometimes
you
you-
did kind of
yeah.
trout set. It's a stripping trout set. So you're like, "Huh," and it's
That's
people
probably-
usually fall off the front of the boat when they trout
That's
set.
probably what I do.
I mean-
I'm gonna do that.
Not to bring other names in, but I always go back to a video. I don't know if you can still find it. It was Andy Mill, and it's just a kind of a pretty famous tarpon fisherman. He was I think he was Olympic skier. He was married to Chris Everett Lloyd in the day. I mean,
He's kind of a pretty famous, very famous.
I mean, the Keys guys will say that he's probably can make a tarpon eat as good as anybody that's been like make one eat a laid up fish or something. But he's got a video with a fly rod, and it's on his back deck. And his line goes through a pulley on his bar and down to a bucket of sand. And he shows you, okay, lifts it up like if you were to trout set and lifts the rod straight up in the air. And nothing happens to the bucket. The bucket stays on the ground. So he just lifts the rod completely tight up, bucket stays on the ground. Then he shows you how to start learning what he does when he's putting max pressure, which was come tight straight to the bucket. And you can find the video. I'm just doing it with my hands. You won't be able to see it, but come straight point and pull with the backbone of the rod above the grip. The thicker part, the heavier part. The tip's not doing anything for you. And he'll take the same bucket that he couldn't move by lifting the rod and bang it off the pulley with the same without changing anything.
Yeah. Wow.
So
and
it's just
exerting less energy for the most part.
Oh, absolutely, yeah. So just coming up with it, you're just collapsing the rod, collapsing the tip, taking the stretch out, and then all of a sudden you've got a really bad angle to do anything to any fish. So
Okay, so you hook this, you strip set it or strout set it, and so now for so fishing once again. I'm just coming from freshwater, sweetwater, as someone called on our show before. Dude,
The Sweetwater.
so I'm never going to the reel. Obviously, I'm always hand lining in. You know, I'm just stripping in like small trout. But here in saltwater world, like what's the deal? I mean, are you trying to go right to the reel? Are you trying to get all that line in?
You'll
or how do you
lose
find 'em?
reds trying to race to the reel.
Yeah.
Okay.
And I've caught big reds on never on the reel.
Yeah.
I mean, they pull, but they'll change direction, and they may never go more than, the fly line from you almost. You may not even get in the backing a lot of times.
Oh, gotcha.
Yeah. They'll change directions a bunch on you.
Yeah, but I've seen people trying to put it on the reel, like up and now concentrating on reeling, and the fish turns and comes at them at a pace, and the fly comes out because they were trying to get it on the reel. Whereas if they just stripped to keep them tight,
They would have never lost them.
yeah, never lost
tight
them.
lines.
I'm glad we have the same opinion on that because if you had a different one, I was going to be like, I don't think you're right there.
That's fine.
But no,
as long
I
as we
agree with you
on
100%
everything,
on that.
No,
man.
I mean,
I've seen I feel like the majority of the fish I see people lose after hooking them is for that reason.
trying to put
Because
them
they're
Trying to put them on the reel. I just
yeah.
always say if any fish needs to be on the reel, he'll get you there.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay,
You know?
that makes sense.
If
Yeah,
he can't
that's
put
fair.
you on the reel, don't try to put him on the reel. That's exactly, I tell anglers that. If they
Yeah.
don't put you on the reel, well, if they put you on the reel, great.
Yeah,
But
exactly.
don't spend any great effort to get, if you need 5 feet of cranking, fine.
Yeah.
But if you got a bunch of line laying on the deck and he's swimming at you,
Don't do one of those hold the rod up and slap the spool and try to spin it all over the
Yeah.
Oh yeah, dude.
Take my
That's-
push pull and knock
even
it
if
off
it
the
works,
front.
it still looks stupid.
Yeah, it's stupid.
It does. Like, I got one. Oh,
Yeah.
yeah. Come on.
That's awesome, man. Well, dude, I've learned so much just by sitting here. So hopefully everybody watching the show, I'm going to jump over here really quick just to Facebook. We have a live chat on here, John, so people are asking some questions. So just want to jump on here. And if you guys have any questions, if you're watching, first of all, thank you for joining us. Thank you for watching. And here's a good question from Josh Davis. He says, what do you recommend on casting? I tend to cast about a 45 degree to the side. I've had a few people tell me it's wrong, that I should go straight over my head. What's your opinion?
Yeah, no, you want that one? I mean, I just had
No,
that
you got
same
it.
question today. And I go back to a lefty analogy where you're standing in a room.
Painting the ceiling.
You're painting the ceiling,
Yep.
and your loaded rod. Because the tip travel is more important on where the rod is in the plane relative to you.
Yeah.
Your tip travel from stop of your back cast to stop your forward cast is your trajectory. So if it's an arc, you're losing energy to the arc. If it's dipping or you're doing other things, so at a 45, it's keeping the fly on a back cast with certain winds from catching you in the earlobe.
Yeah.
I mean, I hold a 45 a lot, and I'll even hold lower. And I mean, there's some different things. Federation of Fly Fishers, a lot of things written, some certification programs where you have to do this and you have to do this. And Lefty was a big proponent of no.
Yeah.
As long as you're casting and getting it done, get it
As
done.
long- yeah, as long as you're
As
Yeah,
long as the
straight
tip's traveling
plane.
a linear path.
Yeah,
it doesn't
that-
matter if it's over here, over here, or anything.
Yeah,
Yeah.
from start to finish, the tip needs to be in a straight line to give you maximum efficiency. But with your line speed, but no, you could hold it parallel with the water. You can hold it 90 degrees to your body as long as you're not.
Yeah.
I mean, I'll hold it way out sometimes.
And I think that's a difference too.
Yeah.
Like, and I think you and I talked about this a little bit yesterday while we were prepping for the show. Or I mean, not prepping, but we just had a quick conversation
Yeah.
of like when you're fishing. And I feel like a lot of people here that I meet go to the mountains and fly fish,
Yeah.
but they don't fly fish here.
Right.
And then vice versa. A lot of people who fly fish in the mountains come here. And then it's like, dude, there's a total different world. There's a total different casting approach.
Yeah.
Because, when I'm in the mountains and I'm fishing a 6.5 foot creek, wide, I'm not coming back and I'm not putting any arm into it at all. I mean, I'm literally tucked into my side. I'm moving, like you said, kind of a stiff wrist and paintbrush.
That goes to the equipment of knowing what your equipment's designed to do.
Yeah.
And a lot of people, I get a lot of, I didn't know that, coming from freshwater, saltwater, vice versa. But like, say, take a 3-weight in a spring creek, like we were talking about, brookies or something. And it's designed for a 20-foot shot to be 25-foot shot to be a nice hucker, throwing out 25 feet.
Yeah.
Your forward head, say if you're using a weight forward floating to saltwater to fresh, on a 3-weight is 16 feet, 15 and a half. Whereas
Okay.
when you get to an 8 and a 9, your forward head is 28 feet, somewhere in that range. If you're looking at the back of your box, so that line is designed to work with whatever rod, with most of that forward head outside the tip. So you're starting with saltwater to load a 8 or a 9 weight with a beyond max distance of what a 3 to 5 weight's supposed to do. Same mechanics,
Gotcha.
but when you haven't looked and understood those differences, I see a mental hurdle of, that's too much line for me to throw. No, that's where your equipment starts working for you when you're comfortable with 24 feet of line in the air, which seems like, well, that's further than I've ever needed. Yeah, but I mean, that's where that's designed to work. That's that 24 feet of weight forward head of double thickness fly line is enabling you to get rod load and line speed and be able to cast.
And that's where you see a lot of the issues with newer clients that you run into nowadays is some of these faster action rods, stiffer rods that require either more line speed or heavier lines to load to cast correctly.
Yeah.
People don't understand the breakdown of how to cast, and they really struggle. They'll go buy the new super sick Sage X, which is a great casting rod if you're throwing 30 plus feet of line.
Yeah.
But when you're just trying to push them up to a 15-foot cast at a redfish, they have trouble making it.
There was one brand X. I had a client that fished for a few different trips with me, and he really struggled. And he was practicing, and he was improving some of his mechanics, but he was struggling on the fishing part. The rod just wasn't. And I picked it up one day and threw it, and I'm like, "This is what they gave you?" So yeah, for beginner and 8, and I'm not going to mention, but it was. I really disliked it.
Yeah,
the whole setup. I don't know if something was wrong or it was just I couldn't do much with it, and I gave him a very inexpensive, moderate action 8-weight that I've found that everybody can throw, and no matter if I've got a good caster or somebody learning can still fish with it. And he picked it up and threw it 3 times. He said, "Can you get me one of these?"
That's awesome.
And that was just it. And I'm like, yeah. I mean, I couldn't understand why he wasn't progressing where he wanted to, and I think the equipment. I mean, at a certain point, the ultra-fast rods are going to make you a better caster because they will accept no nonsense. It's got to be straight tracking. Your rhythm's got to be on. You've got to have no errant movement. So they're going to force you to polish your cast because it really is all timing and rhythm. There's no muscle you can put into it.
Yeah, that's true. Absolutely true.
I think it'd be cool. This just popped in my head, but maybe me and Billy and John, if he's interested, maybe we can bring a couple fly rods out, just do like some beers and some fly casting in the evening. If people are interested, if you want to get into fly fishing, come cast 10 or 12 different rods and see what you like.
And dude, there's a cool park up the road from us that has like a little walkway on low tide or whatever that you can walk. I don't know if it's low tide, but the ponds will fluctuate. You can walk out on. I mean, it's a pretty good strip of land. That way you got kind of your front.
Throwing it over water.
Used to be reds on that flat, but now there's too many people. They're right there. I know with kayaks, people take the kayaks down it. Yeah.
All the redfish are in Pages Creek, people.
Stop it. There's no reds in Pages Creek.
Man, and that's
it's
good,
polluted.
man. So hopefully,
Pages Creek's polluted.
Hopefully, Josh, that answered your question, man. I was.
Oh yeah, what was that? Was the 40? Yeah, 45 all day.
Yeah,
wherever works, as long as you're presenting the fly where you want to. And
and I watched a Lefty Cray video too, man. And he kind of put it like, I'm gonna just go to my main camera here. So if you're thinking about a plane, if you put basically like this bench, like if I have this bench and I'm running my arm just straight across that. That's what he said. Like if you can keep it, and he was a beginner class, but he's like, if you can just keep that rod and keep your now. Once you get casting good, you can, like Judson and I are talking about, you can mess with your wrist all you want. But to really keep that straight arm and just keep that real
You can
nice
break your
rhythm.
wrist a little bit, but it usually, if you watch people that break their wrists, that everything else is so perfect. I mean, there's a champion distance caster that his name escapes me, but I've seen him at shows, and he always breaks the myth of breaking your wrist.
Yeah.
You can't break your wrist. And everybody's like, oh, no, never. And he would show you a 120-foot cast on a pie plate in the show.
Yeah, that's crazy.
And he would break his wrist. He's like, look, I'll break my wrist a little bit here. It's not the end of the world.
Yeah,
and I mean, he's, got 100 feet,
Or go throw an 8-weight all day
the
the wrong way, and your wrist will be broken as well.
Yeah,
it's just all about knowing how to make sure your rod tip's traveling that straight path.
Yeah.
Flexing, but still traveling a straight line.
Yeah.
So,
and dude, it takes time, man. I know, like I started fly fishing like 5 years ago. Dude, I spent hours, and then I still have one of those. And I don't know who makes, like, I'm sure all the brands maybe make them.
The little mini ones with the yarn.
Yeah, I have a St. Croix rod. It's like a little 3 or 4 foot. I mean, I take it out in the yard like all winter long, like whenever.
Yeah.
Keep your fly rod rigged up in last year's line. I mean, keep it like at least just if you have to break it down break in half, keep it in a closet.
Yeah.
Take it out 3 days a week for 5 minutes. Don't sit there for 40 minutes and just get frustrated.
Yeah.
And you'll blow yourself away. And if you just don't, put it away for a couple weeks, pick it, and there's a couple little things like, practicing. And one thing I see a lot, we've talked about a million different things on freshwater to saltwater, but you're going to shoot a cast in saltwater way more than you ever would in freshwater. In freshwater, like you're saying with 3s, 5s, you're placing specific, you're placing shots right where you want them, accurate little shots, and you're actually casting through and placing that shot. Whereas in saltwater, you're looking for optimum rod load, and you're shooting, which is letting go of line that is laid and coiled on the deck or in a basket or wherever, that the momentum of the line carries that out. So say you've got your 25 feet up in the air. I watch a lot of people with 25 feet up in the air coming from a freshwater background, and they'll creep a little bit of line out and creep a little and try to place. Well, you're never going to place a 70-foot cast, 60-foot cast. Just not going to happen, even a 50. So you're going to have to learn to find the optimum rod load, optimum line speed, keep it there, and then on your presentation cast, change nothing but let go with your line hand.
Okay.
Yeah, that's huge. I like that.
Yeah, dude, because that's a struggle.
Yeah. I see a lot of people trying. It comes from.
That's the best I've ever heard that explained too. I try to explain that every day.
It's hard. It's hard to explain. Again, I'm just old, and I've been trying to break it down for years to help people. Not be, because if you come into saltwater, casting without thinking about these things, or without at least the first trip, you're going to learn all this stuff, or have to figure out what you learned through. And I think a lot of people might bounce back and not be as excited to come do it, but.
Well, man, and I think that's the thing. You get out there and people are not trained. Nobody's out there to show them how, or maybe they just don't. Like I'm a YouTube guy, dude. I'll get on there and watch Lefty Cray and like a bunch of Orvis guys like all day long, and then I'll go, like you said, I'll go take half my rod out, or I'll take that little practice rod I bought with the yarn on it, and I'll just sit there and try to place, shots 20, 30 feet, whatever that little thing can do. But man, I could see, and the first time I ever went fly fishing, I was with a buddy of mine. We were going down the Watauga River right there in East Tennessee. And dude, I was young. I mean, I was probably in like high school maybe. Yeah. And dude, I was a sloppy mess. And I just said like, I'm never doing that again. Like that's terrible. I suck at fly fishing. And then I got married, and my father-in-law like lives on the South Holston River. Is like, basically no option. Like you're fly fishing.
You're fly fishing.
We're a fly fishing family.
Because you married my daughter.
You're part of. And then my wife. Now you want to get. My wife is she's been fly fishing since she was like 2.
That's awesome. I didn't even know that. That's
dude,
awesome.
She
That's cool.
is solid, man. I go out there and I'm like screwing around the yard, and I'm like, man, I can't get this, and she comes out and just effortlessly just putting it wherever.
I'd say a lot of times girls are better than guys are because they're not trying to power it in there.
Absolutely.
It's not about strength for them. It's about tempo and
girls
timing.
will listen. Like if somebody's the lady anglers that maybe are wanting to learn fly, I can have them casting a lot, or anybody can have. They'll be casting quicker than us guys.
Yeah,
because we're not listening. We're muscling. We already know how to do it all. So I mean, they're definitely.
Dude, she's way better at fly fishing, fly casting than I am for sure. Man, so we spent. Hopefully, that's a value of people watching the show. I'm like I told Judson before we started this episode. I'm like, it's gonna be a little selfish because I'm like really into learning how to craft this skill for fly fishing.
I want to welcome more people into it. Come check it out. For sure. But, I mean, I don't want you to come book me for a day for a high price casting lesson.
Yeah, that's fair. That's fair of you.
It's frustrating for you and frustrating for me, and leaves a bad taste. And
maybe we could do that. Let's put together something.
A little casting day, just a hangout day. It'd be fun.
Just a couple hours.
I mean,
comment on here if you're interested in coming to a little casting session.
Yeah, we'll set it
just
up.
Hang out. We'll bring a couple drinks and hang out and do some casting at the park. Well, maybe not drinks if we're at the public park. We'll see what happens. But
bring some waters.
Bring some waters or something. But it'd be super fun to do.
So we talked about all that, man. So what else you got going on there, Judson?
I had one more thing that I wanted to bring up about the casting too. And you said like about the great resources on YouTube. So many incredible resources to learn on YouTube. And I feel like what happens a lot of times with clients is, and I do the same thing. You want to watch the fishing videos. You want to watch the people hook in the redfish, the hero shot stuff. And you watch a lot of that, and then all of a sudden it's like, oh, this looks pretty easy, and you forget that that there's so much learning. And I think it was a famous Keys captain, I can't remember who it was, but said, you can buy the nicest boat, the nicest rods, the nicest fly line. You can have a house in the Keys in Montana, wherever you want to fish, but the last 60 feet are always up to you.
Yeah.
There's no way to make that fly go. Like there's nothing you can buy to make that fly land where it needs to land,
Yeah.
So it's all about that practice. It is so important to practice. You're not going to go shoot an under par game of golf without practicing,
Yeah. I'm never going to shoot an under par game of golf anyway.
I'm not either.
It's something you can improve upon for the rest of your life. I still like to just cast to cast,
Yeah.
Go out there and get the timing and the rhythm of a new rod, or just, all warming up, and the fishing part of it is, I'm always fishing, but I mean, the casting can be kind of therapeutic.
For sure.
Yeah.
And it's something you can get better at till you're done,
Yeah, man, and I definitely, and it's such a cool community too, because not only are you, you're learning, you're casting, it's like an art of presenting flies, but then, I mean, we can jump into. We got a few minutes left here. What I mean, if we run over, whatever. But we can jump into flies too, because it's like, dude, like you don't have to go out and buy flies. Like you can just go out and tie your own and do all kinds of stuff. So let's talk about that, man. What are your top like 4 like overall? You know, you're looking for what, like redfish, trout, bluefish. Like, what are 4 go-to
your top 4 catch
flies?
And with that too, kind of maybe if someone were to go buy just a couple flies, maybe not your top 4, your top 4, but also like if someone were to just go spend $5 on flies, what are some productive ones for them to have as well?
You know, it might be a harder fly to throw, but everything will eat a crease fly.
Yeah.
And I just like a crease fly because the bites are more exciting. And the crease fly is kind of hard to explain, but it's a top water fly. It's epoxy coated.
Okay, I was going to ask.
It makes a little gurgle. It's basically just a creased over piece of foam attached to the hook.
Oh,
it's got an oval face to it. It's a very sparse tide fly, but it makes a little. You get it just stripping right. It makes a gurgle and a slap, and everything eats it from reds to trout to ladyfish to, you know, I'm sure a little tarpon would eat it. I mean, but the albies will eat it when the bait's the right size.
Yeah.
I mean,
You got one in there? You're looking for
probably
one?
no
not.
crease
But
flies in
the
here.
crease fly or a gurgler, I mean, I'm a big surface. I have a couple of clients who are like, I won't throw anything but a surface fly at a redfish. I'd rather have 1 or 2 bites of surface on a sight caught fish than a subsurface.
Here's a little gurgler. I'm looking in here. I'm like, golly, I need to start tying some
Oh, hold on a
flies.
second. Here you go. Let me bring you back on here, Judd. Right
This
there
is,
in front of you.
That's gurgler. So it's like just like a little basic shrimp fly. This is a terrible looking.
And my
gurgler
brother
type.
always tied, so I never tied. It's very I build rods and stuff, but I never got everything. I would sit down at a device and have something in my head, and what came out was not what was in my head. And my brother tied, and I've always had fly tires that could give me something better than what was in my head. So
Right.
I'm going fishing. I wish I could, but I can't.
Dude, that's how I am, man.
Not very good at it.
Like I said, my father-in-law, he bought me like one year for Christmas a bunch of fly tying gear, and I tied a few flies and actually caught fish on them, which was pretty rewarding. But then, dude, like he's so good at tying them, and I'm like, okay, well, I'll just wait for you to tie some.
I know. I've always tried to find some friends that I can be like, or some younger guys that are good at better at tying flies, and be like, hey, I'll take you fishing, you know, once if you'll tie me 30 flies. And
Yeah, dude.
I don't know if you can see that one gets bit, doesn't it?
yeah, that one does get bit. I haven't thrown that in a while, but
What
that's
is that? I didn't
It's
see
just
it.
it's I don't what would you call it? It's a little
it's just a piece of
rabbit
bunny with
sonker.
some
Hold on a
flash
second.
and
Let me,
some.
let me bring your full camera on there.
I
There
don't
you
know
go.
what half these are. Half these are just like, you know, sitting there late at night tying
Just
something up.
sparse, light. You know, I like something you can throw. It's got a nice weed guard on it.
Yeah,
I don't know what you would call that, but
I have no name for that. But yeah, so for redfish, I just like anything that could be a bait fish or a shrimp, like something that looks like it's
match the hatch. I mean,
right in the
Okay,
middle of
gotcha.
the two. And I'm not getting too picky, but a lot of times this time of year I'm fishing in the Cape Fear River, and the fish get really shallow. So I want something that's going to land soft. I mean, I'm fishing in 6 to 8 inches of water a lot of times.
Oh, wow.
At the most 2 to 3 feet of water, but typically under a foot of water.
And those are mostly like targeting redfish.
Targeting redfish. And so
Okay.
anything that looks like a shrimp or
crabs
a
work.
little crab, and sometimes I like a lot of crab patterns, but some of them they don't strip as well. as others.
There's a pattern I've used that I've actually just ran out of. A friend of mine tied it for me, but it's called a quabbit.
A quabbit.
A quabbit?
Yeah,
I like-
quabbit with a K.
Is that
And
with rabbit in there?
Yeah, that was. Did
That's
you
like a
ever
duck
meet
and a rabbit, like a
Scott
quabbit?
that tied for Intercoastal back in the day? I don't think he moved to Durham, but
Okay.
he went to Belize, and that was one of the recommended
man.
flies was a quabbit for the permit, and it's got some rubber legs. It's very crabby looking. It's very kind of a simple fly with a little bit of rabbit,
Yeah.
and so on a pause it breathes, and I have yet to see a shallow red turn the quabbit down if I'm throwing at him.
Yeah.
I haven't seen that happen.
I always tell people too, with redfish, it is, and in some places and times a year, yes, they can be picky, but for the most part, it's presentation. I mean,
Yeah.
it's all about just their world is so small. There's so much bait around this time of year
Yeah.
that they're not going to move to eat a fly. They're gonna move 10, 12 inches to eat a fly.
So it's getting it close.
It's getting that fly right in there. Yeah.
It's getting it to them before they know you're there also.
Yeah.
A lot
Yeah.
of times, oh, there he was, and oh, we missed. But, you saw him, so you never had a chance.
And what's the distance that you need to be away? I mean, that'd be good for practicing your cast. Like, what's
What's your average
I always
shot?
tell people
45,
it changes depending upon how fast that fish is moving, how slow
Gotcha.
that fish is moving. And it changes depending on the client. But 35-foot cast,
It's
40-foot
plenty
cast
fishable.
is plenty fishable.
Yeah.
Well, that's the thing. People talk about distance, and I know a lot of Bahamian guides especially scare people off. Well, you got to throw 90 feet, man. And I can't see anything at 90 feet, and I don't know where my fly's landing in a 10-foot circle in 90 feet. So.
Right.
Gotcha.
No, it's not that, but you can practice for distance because when you're getting 90 feet, when you're throwing the whole fly line, you're getting maximum efficiency out of your equipment. So to me, what that translates to is when you're on the water, you can make a quicker presentation than that 40 feet.
Yeah.
You get the 40-foot shot, 35-foot shot, 30-foot shot. If you can get the rod load quick and get to where you can get it, you can present that fly quick enough to get in front of that fish, boom, on a turning boat with an angle, fish is moving. As opposed to when you're not getting maximum efficiency, you need a lot of false casts to get out there. That goes back to another thing. I don't know how much time we have, but like
We can keep rolling.
We're good,
We can
man.
keep
No, I
rolling.
think it's a good
working
conversation.
with, everybody talks about the cast and fly fishing. That's just one component.
Yeah.
You've got to get beyond the cast. You've got to practice enough with the cast so you're not thinking about every component of the cast like a golf swing. You know, if you had to think about, okay, transfer weight and swing your shoulder, move it, you're going to fall down.
Yeah.
So the cast is just something that you have to practice so it becomes a little bit automatic, but line management on the boat.
Yeah.
There's so many times I see somebody, especially from freshwater, pick up an 8-weight and with 6 feet of line out of the tip and the leader and do 37 false casts to get out to where they feel like they're starting to load the rod. Whereas you can flop out 10 feet in front of you on the water, learn how to water load, which is an exaggerated straight pullback, all causing friction on the line with the water surface, loading your rod. So as you're going into a back cast, you're loaded, feather 3 more feet out there, and then go into a forward cast to start working and find out, let just enough line out so you're loading it good. But that water load trick and being able to manage the line around your leg is to me more important than being able to throw 80 feet because I'm not fishing at 80 feet anyway.
For sure.
But it's nice to practice at 80 because then boom, once you feel what it takes to let your equipment allow you to cast 80 feet, then you can translate that to quick 40-foot shots in front of that fish before he's gone or before he's too close and you spook him or whatever,
And I'd say another big thing that I had to learn when I moved here was like a double haul. Like I didn't even know what the heck that was. Like somebody's like, "Oh, you gonna fly fish here?" I'm like, "Yeah." They're like, "You know what a double haul is?" I'm like, "Sure don't." What is
Watch
that?
me do the triple haul.
Triple haul.
Triple haul is a dance that I made up. I'm just kidding.
So
Double haul is key. It just generates line speed.
Yeah.
dude, yeah. And it's necessary here in Wilmington because it's like the Chicago, the East Coast, man. It's like blowing wind all the time.
It
so
is.
to fish here, it's like I feel like that's a huge thing. I mean,
It
you
helps.
guys speak to that a little bit.
Go back to Lefty. He said it. Double haul. What the double haul mostly does is translates makes everybody's casting errors larger.
Yeah.
But you've got to get the timing and the rhythm down first to even do a double. To get into where a double haul is not going to just
Yeah, it's like what is that, like
you.
rubbing your head or rubbing your belly and patting your head at the same time?
Yeah.
That's what it feels like to me when I'm trying to
do
that.
It's awkward. It's so much like different timing. I imagine it's what like a good drummer is really good at. Like
yeah.
having different tempos going in their head at the same time.
Yeah.
So we'll do a whole episode on
That's
that.
a neat way to put that. I thought because I do that. I tell people learning the double haul that it is patting your belly, rubbing your head.
Right.
But the drumming thing,
It's like you're keeping a few different things going in your head at the same time.
Yeah,
Which
and
is the tricky part.
well, the thing is, it's not in your head anymore. It's like
Right.
It becomes a muscle memory. It
Right.
becomes an automatic, response that you just get used to, and then you're fishing. Then you're moving on to fishing.
Oh man, I spent hours and hours, and I bet if I got on one of your guys' boats tomorrow, you'd be like, "You really spent hours and hours?" Because it's like golf, dude. You got to go and do it all the time.
You do.
Yeah,
You do.
yeah.
So there's two things that I always share. Like this is my bow breakdown. Like in the morning, I want to say these before I forget them because I think they're pretty important. The first one is I always tell people, and this isn't 100%, but I tell people if they make a cast to a redfish, this is just for redfish, sight fishing redfish. If you make a cast to a redfish and you don't feel like you can feed that fish in 5 strips, then I tell them to cast again.
Okay.
So that's not 5 little ticks. Like when I'm in the zone, when I feel like I'm going to be in the zone where I can get bit, I'm stripping it 2 to 5 inches quickly. Tick, 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 tick. I want that fly moving. I never want it stopping in front of the fish. but I don't want it moving 3 feet away from the fish at once. And this is what I've found to be good for me. There's tons of different takes on this, but if you lay a cast out there and you don't feel like with maybe like 2 or 3 long strips and then some little ticks, you can make it work, pick it up and go again. Because you've typically got, 10, maybe 15 seconds on a fish when you see them. Sometimes you're going to have 3 minutes. But
watching tailing fish and you think you got all this time. Like I've watched tailing fish before. We're taking pictures of them. And if you don't throw the fly line, they don't leave. Yeah. But sometimes 2 shots,
and
they're done. They maybe don't leave. They don't bust out of there, but they've heard something that's off, and and then they're gonna just protect, and you don't get a bite out of them. Yeah. So it's, the stripping thing. I mean, it's just I hadn't heard it put that way, but that's a pretty neat
that's my thing. I didn't hear that from somebody, but I want to get that fly to that fish as quickly as possible once it's within range. Yeah. And so and that means getting the cast there, but also getting the strips into there. And a big thing when fishing to redfish and any fish that you're sight fishing to. Yeah. You can see the fish, you can see your fly. You're going to be tempted to really rush that fly in there, but you've got to let that fish feel like they found it. Yeah. If you pull it in there real fast, it's going to spook the crap out of it.
Nothing chases it. A small crab or a shrimp or a little finger mullet is not chasing them down, even though they know that. So that's one thing I see when people talk about sight fishing is if I don't say anything or we don't go over, okay, we see a fish crossing right to left, where should I hit it? Where should I place my cast? A lot of people are going to try to hit him right on the nose.
Right.
Yeah.
And that rarely works. And another thing, too, is if you're just short of the nose, now you've got just a close eye. So if you give that fly a little bit of life and he doesn't eat it right away, now your only thing is to strip it closer to the boat, which you're getting to where you're not going to get a bite anyway. Right. So I always tell people to lead if you know which direction he's moving, even slowly, lead him and just get some of the leader beyond him. And then wait to present in his sight window, which is that eye-to-eye pizza slice, within, some days 8 feet away they're coming at it with reckless abandon. Some days it needs to be 2 feet in front of them. So you've got to put it in the sight window, and that takes a good, you got to be aware of where your fly is, which is another part of the whole puzzle, but getting it in there and looking like something that's crossing in front or
a shrimp sweeping across his nose, getting
from
away.
him, or oh gosh, there's a red. Let me get out of here. Where he snaps and goes no, after. I'm going to eat it. Yeah.
So we talked a lot about sight fishing. Let me ask you this, and this is actually a question from Griffin on here. Do you ever use a fly rod to find fish, or are you always sight fishing? So he says, is it possible to blind cast / work an area, knowing fish are there with the fly rod? Yes or no?
Yeah, sure.
Okay.
Crease fly is nice. I like a surface fly. You'll see a roll or something, but
something with more presence.
Yeah, something
I think
with
a lot of people
presence.
think fly fishing, sight fishing.
Well, I mean, if I'm gonna say I don't know if I'm gonna just search and I don't know, I'm typically gonna pick up a spinning rod unless
you really want to get it on the fly.
Unless you're really specifically trying to do something like, I've fished some stripers in the Cape Fear on fly and haven't caught very many, but have fished a lot. And I mean, 2 or 3 bites in a day for hundreds of casts, all blind. Yeah, I mean, there's plenty of blind speckled trout.
It's a wintertime workout routine.
But without actually seeing the fish, working it like you would a spinning rod. There's definite ways to blind cast a fly and make it effective.
For sure.
Okay.
And like he was saying, that crease fly's that big, something flashy in the water. Yeah. Don't throw the little small fly you're going to sight fish with because they don't see that unless it's within 2 feet of them. Yeah. So something flashy, something that makes some noise.
That's awesome. I'm going to read a couple of these comments because I
oh no.
This one guy says, Nicholas Deason. Do you guys know him?
I do not.
He says, I'm going to take up fly fishing just because I'm tired of throwing cast nets for live bait.
I like it.
Yeah.
We'll be ready to spend like a couple $1,000s on fly tying material and you get sucked into that. So.
Yeah, exactly. And then Quentin Holly said, y'all are going to talk me into buying a fly setup.
Nice. So, hit me up. I got one. I'll sell you. I got a bunch. I'll sell you.
Yeah. You don't have to break the bank. Get something.
Well, man, I think we could talk for another hour probably about fly fishing. I mean, because it's a passion of mine, passion of your guys. But
part 2.
We have to.
We should do another one.
To do something, do another one, and because I have this motto in my life. I like to leave people with less wanting more than more wanting less, so we can kind of narrow it down. But first of all, I want to talk a little bit about, you say you're building rods, you're doing some of that stuff, so I don't want to miss, I feel like I wanted to bring that up in the beginning, totally forgot.
That's fine.
So tell us about that, man. It's kind of a new venture for you.
I've kind of opened up Circle H Outfitters, which is a business here in town. It's kind of an offshoot of my my Circle H charters, and I got into fishing for a living, like I said earlier, coming from land surveying as a career path, and was taught how to build rods in Fort Lauderdale. So that got me into it. It's pretty tedious. I don't love it. I love the finished product. I love designing it. I love being able to make what I want to fish with. And so I've been building rods, and I've got my store up, and now I've got a small shop where I do custom rods and consulting and kind of boat packages. Some of my blue water stuff, put together blue water packages for traveling boats and things. But I do build custom rods, Circle H Outfitters. You can get a hold of me, Circle H Charters. But and I'm building on that, daily on what I can offer people. But a lot of consulting. Can get them things they need, and a lot of custom stuff. And, I'm there just for questions and answers if anybody needs me.
Yeah, man. Well, dude, I think that's awesome. And so they can get your information. I just want to give your website out here. It's circlehcharters.com.
That's me.
That's right.
Yeah,
that's where I found all your info here. So go.
My cell number's on there.
Okay.
Don't hesitate to call me, even just a question.
Yeah.
I'm meaning to ask you, what the heck were you talking about? Or call me out on something. We can argue. I don't know.
Yeah. Hey, I love confrontation.
You're more of a lover than a fighter, though.
Yeah, I don't really want to. I just argue for fun.
So I'll ask this one more question here of Griffin. Appreciate you asking questions, Griffin, by the way, and anybody else that has last minute questions. After we follow up with these kind of questions, then we'll let you have some closing thoughts, and then we'll go from there. Maybe do part 2. So Griffin says, how do you approach a flood tide? I'm on a paddleboard and can never find fish. How do you locate areas and find... this might be a loaded question. Areas and find fish. He says he only fishes right now behind Figure 8 Island.
The floods, just keep looking at all the areas, and I'm hesitant to give out a secret of mine for that, but it would be satellite shots. I just did it, and now I'm like, it's done. So, most people go, I never thought of that.
Let me plug my phone in, and you can just show me.
Yeah, no.
You can see the grass from your phone or from your satellite image.
Yeah, and you can and just concentrate on an area, and concentrate on the flood tide itself, the hour before, the hour after, and concentrate on one area. Because if you're finding fish, you maybe start looking at just some different spots, maybe a couple 100 yards away, but just some different bottom, different areas, different big tides. There's fish back there. They need a little more pressure, but especially coming up here, September, October, the big giant tides. If you look hard enough, you'll find them. And one thing with a kayak is you're a little bit lower, or the paddleboard, you're a little bit lower to the water, and you may want to get up as high as you can around some of the islands and actually wade some of them. With some harder bottom.
Yeah, for sure.
Get over there with the paddleboard. But a lot of times, you're at a different angle, and if you're making any noise, they're not going to stand for it. They may not spook, but they're going to leave.
Yeah.
So
I would say, just quick little pointers, like just to piggyback off what John was saying, 8 to 12 inches of water.
Yeah.
Maybe a little bit more. If it gets much deeper than that, you're not going to see them tailing. Areas that have a lot of access to the flooded grass, as far as creeks or bays close to the flat, and then also an area that you might already know there's a school of fish or a good number of fish near that grass flat. You got a better chance of fish being up there. So that's kind of what I look for.
Yeah, I would agree.
Or find these guys at the boat ramp and paddle really fast behind them.
Yep.
Oh, man. Well, John, I appreciate you coming on the show.
Oh, man,
I think your camera bogus out on me again here.
I broke it.
Okay, well, that's okay, man. We'll just put mine and Judson's ugly mugs up here and talk to you. But
I do have one more announcement.
Yeah, go ahead. Go for it.
So Jay Grisso, real big fan of the show.
Oh, yeah.
He just texted me. He's like, hey, will you please share this? So it's real cool stuff. So on September 14th, you can volunteer your boat to take active duty military personnel fishing out of Southport Marina. So there'll be a meal provided. It's just a real cool opportunity to get down there. There's tons of people. He was telling me I'm going to try to do it this year and just be able to take people fishing. Yeah. It's all volunteered time, and it's definitely, we get to get out there and fish all the time. these guys, you know, they're serving our country and they don't get to get out on the water. And so it's just super cool for us to be able to volunteer our boat and get people out on the water fishing.
That's cool. And what date is that on?
That's September 14th out of Southport Marina. So you can look up the information online and check out Jay Grisso. It's JayGrisso. If you have any questions about that, you can hit him up on Instagram or Facebook. Super nice guy, real fishy guy. But he's been asking me about that, and I think it's a super cool way that we can share what we love and serve our community
and give back too. That's awesome. Awesome, man. Well, John, appreciate it. Yeah, Jay, appreciate you if you're listening and to sharing that. John, really appreciate being on the show, man. I wish this camera, I got to get up and fix it and tweak it, but anyway,
you can lay your head right here.
We'll just kind of roll with it. But yeah, man, appreciate you being on the show. And so if there was some, last thought of, and really, I guess we kind of hit beginners. I mean, if anybody that's fly fish a lot, hopefully they learned, especially if they're freshwater coming to saltwater, they learned a lot. I know I did. But what's some last minute, tips or like encouragement or just last minute thoughts from you?
I mean, I don't know if it's directed at me or Judd, but I mean, just don't be intimidated. Nobody was, except for Lefty, born being a good fly fisherman.
Exactly.
And, there's so much information out there. I mean, just with either one of us for questions or, like you said, YouTube's got
a ton of content.
And just don't get intimidated, and then okay, I'm going to commit to it, and you got to practice.
Yeah, it's tough. It's a tough game.
So
not easy.
Luke Tippett wants to incorporate a new rule next year for Striper Fest.
Oh boy!
He says, "Can we make a rule that John has to fish Striper Fest with fly only this year? Maybe that would give the other guys a shot."
I'll do it.
That's perfect.
If you're gonna do it, let's make a team. I want to do it with you.
Do a fly fishing
because I don't catch anything during that tournament anyways. So
wait, I thought I saw a trophy over there for Striper Fest.
That was one year. I got lucky. I had a client that knew the striper better than.
Yeah, I went to John's spot yesterday. There's like 12 of them.
You gotta get lucky. That's the only way in that one. I mean, I don't know.
Man, guys will go catch like 20 the day before, and that tournament day sucks every year. It feels like it's like the tournament's incredible, but the fishing's tough.
It never is a good day.
The fishing's tough.
Rarely is it a good day. I mean, I've had the day before the tournament catch like 15, 18 fish. And then the tournament day, like nobody.
That's probably because we're all going the day before, trying to figure out where they are and whack them.
It might be. Hopefully they'll come back after Florence, but they did take a hit.
Yeah. Well, man, really appreciate you being on the show. Yeah. We're going to set up that. Everybody's saying, like, hey, make sure you set up that day in the park, do some fly fishing training or whatever, casting.
Yeah.
Dude, I don't see any more comments or questions that I missed on my side. I think my system's a little slow at getting them. But anyway, guys, man, appreciate you joining us for another episode 10 here, talking about saltwater fly fishing. Just a lot of great content, man. I'm going to probably go back and watch this one a few times just to refresh and learn. So
it's gotten me excited about a bunch of other fly fishing shows that we can do as well.
Dude,
if we just got into the basics here, there's so much we can jump into.
There's so much
Go
more.
Real specific.
Yeah. Targeting different species and where and how, and
there's so much on our little run sheet that we didn't even
talk about it. Because we just nerded out on it. So anyway, guys, really appreciate you jumping on here on Eastern Current. Justin and I work super hard to bring the show to you every week. So you'll check out the podcast. It'll be live tomorrow. I try to get that uploaded as quickly as possible. And then also it'll be available on YouTube. And then you can always watch it replayed back here on Facebook. Like, share, comment, whatever. I'm going to give away right now this painting that Judy Brock, arguably the number one, used to be the fan of the show until she got her card hustle back.
She's playing cards with her ladies on Tuesday nights now, so she can never tune in.
So here we go. I'm going to pick a random winner, and it is, here we go, Audrey Grisso.
Nice.
She says, so there you go, Audrey. Well, we're going to be sending that to you. I know we sent Jay a hat, I believe, not too long ago, or you handed it off to him. So anyway, guys, we'll be back next week. We'll update you on the topic. We were working on a trout series of shows, and I think we're going to postpone that for a couple of weeks and maybe go a different route for next week. So we'll let you know. Just follow us on Instagram, Facebook right here. We don't have a Twitter. And then, check out our podcast. Go on iTunes and rate our podcast. It's very helpful when you guys do that. And we changed some stuff on there, so when people look up fishing, now they can hopefully find us. We did some word changes. And
we're learning how the keywords work on there.
Yeah, yeah. And if you're great at marketing and you want a free gig, just let me know. Like, come and do some
Take all the
marketing.
help we can get.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, guys, we appreciate it. Once again, I'm Billy Thorpe. That's Judson Brock. This is Eastern Current. We'll see you next week. Same time, same place, Tuesday, 8 p.m. Have a great week.
Bye.